Hello, welcome back. How are you doing today? We'll be looking at the concepts of simple and compound interest in today's class. And I'm going to take my time, a little bit, like not just jumping into the formula or the formulae that we're going to be using, but like trying to make you understand the fundamentals of simple and compound interest rate. So why do we have to use it to, like, what formula should you use at a particular period of time? How can you understand these things? Okay. Now, basically speaking, simple interest is the price paid for obtaining a loan. So it's just like the price for a loan. Okay. Normally speaking, you look at it in the sense that if I lend you some money, I could have used the money for something else. So like I need to charge you an interest. I need to charge you something that you should pay me that would at least be equal to the other thing I could have put the money into at the present time. So we are looking at it in the sense that interest is paid on loans simply because of opportunity cost of the lender, right? So at the end of the day, simple interest is just the extra amount of money that is being paid on a loan obtained for a period of time. All right. And then for simple interest, there is no compounding. We are going to talk about that when we look at the issue of compound interest. Just know that for simple interest, there is no compounding. And what does compounding mean? So you are going to know like later in this video. So what then is the formula for simple interest? It's something that you already probably know, right? So the simple interest, the formula is I, which is the interest, right? The simple interest equals to PRT divided by 100. So I is the simple interest, P is the principal amount that is being lent out or borrowed at a particular period of time. Then R is the rate of interest, right? Which is different from the interest. So rate of interest is the percentage that determines the interest you'll be getting, on a particular loan given the capital and time. Then time, T, the time here is measured in years. So by assumption for everything we're going to be doing, if years were to be converted to days, so we'll be looking at 360 days. So like we'll be making 360 days to equal a year. But normally the T here is year. The over 100 is simply because rate is expressed in percentages, right? So that's why you have divided by 100. Okay, so which means if I lent, if I borrowed 100 naira, about 100 naira as the rate of what do you call it, 35, maybe at 35% interest rate. So 35% is 0.35. So I just multiply by 0.35. Then for a given year, as 1 year, so my interest at the end of the day is going to be I think 35. All right, 1 2, yeah, 35. So after a year, I'm going to be getting 35 naira. So if this was 100 naira that I borrowed, so I'll be paying 35 naira interest on it. So which is trying to tell me that by the following year when I'm repaying the money, so this is total amount, you know, um, gotten after the payments of the interest is made, right? So total amount that I'm supposed to refund now is going to be the capital that I borrowed, right? Then plus the interest that I am paying. So in this case, A equals 100 plus 35. So total amounts to be paid back is 135 naira. So that's it's as simple as that. But then maybe to just make things more interesting, we could just express the formula. So since we know that I is PRT over 100, right? And then we know that total amount to be repaid after a loan is obtained is this formula. So we can just say A equals P plus substitute the formula for I into this place. Let me call this equation 1, for example, and this is equation 2. Then what I want to write now is like equation 3. So I'll be having PRT divided by 100, then you close the brackets. So like this is equation 3. Alright, so when we proceed from here, I can collect like terms. A is equal to P, then this is 1, right? Then plus there's no P again, I have RT divided by 100. So this is equation 4. So the amount to be repaid later is like this formula. So this is not the interest, this is the amount to be repaid, after the interest and the principal has been paid back upon maturity of the loan. So A is equal to, so in case you sit on something like this, calculate the amount to be repaid, and then you have R, you have T, you have P. So you can just use this, formula straight up, and then you're going to get your answer. Now for our own case, if you want to like apply this formula, so A is going to be equal to P 1 plus interest rate was 35%, so 35 divided by 100, That's 0.35, and the time was 1 year, right? So multiply by 1, they close the whole thing. So this P is actually 100 here. So A equals 100 into bracket 1.35, and then this is equal to 135. Simple. So what we got, initially. Now the other thing that we could also do, okay, what if you wanted to like get interest, like as an expression of what we have here? So recall that interest is PRT over 100, and okay, we don't want to like do it in that way. So recall that A is equal to P plus I, right? And then we've expressed A as this, like, so this is A right now. So what we have, what I'm trying to say is A equals plus I. We've expressed A as this. So A is this guy now. So P 1 plus RT over 100, which is A, equals to P plus I. Alright, so we could also do this. So since A, we've established that A is already this. So just substitute here, then equals P plus I. So how then do we get our I out? So we have P 1 plus RT over 100 minus P equals I. So this is another way we could get our I out. So you could also still, P is common here, P is common here. So we just take P out, P 1 plus RT over 100 minus 1 equals I. Okay, um, no, P plus RT over 100. So this. All right, and if you look at this, 1 is going to cancel 1, right? So you just have PRT over 100 equals I back. Like this one will cancel this one. So like you could stop here. You could use this formula. Let's call this equation 4. Let's call this equation 5. Let's call this equation 6. Right? So if you cancel out here, you're going to get I back because 1 is going to cancel minus 1. Then P times RT, PRT over 100, they give us I again, which we have in the beginning. So like, just kind of enjoy yourself. So it's just simple algebra, knowing what you do. It's like that. So that's all about simple interest. So we are going to solve more questions in this video, or if there's going to be a second video, we'll solve more questions then. Because there are cases where, or maybe I should just talk about one of the cases now. So let's say we have a question. I think let me just, since we are talking about simple interest, let's just use an example. Let's say we have a question that says that at what interest what interest rate is needed to have money treble into, no, that's something that's a little bit on the high side. So I'm trying to look for, find the interest rate earned on an investment of 250,000 into a money market account that pays simple interest of 3.5% over a 90-day period. So like what are the important details from the question? So yeah, these are two questions on simple interest rate, and then let's see how we can go solving them. So find the interest earned on an investment of 250,000 into a money market account. So a money market is a market where short-term financial securities are bought and sold, like treasury bills, treasury certificates, commercial papers, etc. like that, call money, and so on and so forth. So find the interest earned on investments of 250,000 into a money market account that pays a simple interest rate of 3.5% over a 90-day period, right? By assumption, I already said that at the beginning of this class that a year is assumed to be 360 days. So like, let's just work it out. So solution number 1. So find the interest earned on an investment of 250,000. So like the investment amount, which is the principal is 250,000, and into a money market that pays, the investment amount is 250,000, right? So the thing is, you can also use the simple interest rate formula for investments. Like it's not a big deal. Okay, principal is 250,000, and then the rate of interest is 3.5%. R equals 3.5%. Okay, convert to this quickly, 0.035. Then time has to be expressed in years, but here we have days. so which means you must convert this to years. So normally I shouldn't be solving that like because it's easy, but like let me just show people that prefer to do things like in like step by step. 360 days, 360 days equals 1 year. So 90 days equals how many years? So some already know the answer. So x. So what does this cross multiply? 360 multiplied by x will give us 360s because 90 times 1 is 90. Divided by 360 by 360, and then x equals 1 over 4 years. So x here is 0.25. So like this is the biggest deal about the question. So when we continue, we can now apply our formula. Interest is PRT over 100, but we've already converted this, so like just PRT. So P is 250,000, 250,000 multiplied by R 3.5%, which is this 0.035, then multiplied by how many years? 0.25. Okay, so our interest is, I've solved it before. Our interest is 2187. Yeah, you can see you've also done yours, so which is very okay. Yeah, that's good. So the answers are similar, which is great. So that's about a particular question. So we have two questions on the board. So what do we do about the second one? The second one says, what is the annual interest rate? So here we have to look for R. Okay, annual interest rate, and by 62-day treasury bill. And I've said it before that treasury bill is something sold in the money market. It's a financial instrument sold in the money market or financial security. Okay, with a maturity value of 100,000. So here we've been given the maturity value, okay, the amounts earned plus the interest at 100,000 that sells for 96,999. So in this case, we are looking for R. We are looking for R. We don't know R. We know P to be 96,999. We know A, the amounts after the whole thing, to be 100,000, 100,000. And then we're given the time as 62 days. 62 days. There's okay, I think that one is on compound interest. There's also a question on weeks. So 62 days. In case the question was in weeks, we know we have 52 weeks in a given year. So the number of weeks that you have, just try to convert it into for example, the question we are going to be doing under compound interest. One of it, you have something of 45 weeks. I think an instrument or an investment of 45 weeks, and then you have 52 weeks in a year, so you just have to like 45 divided by 52 to get to express the 45 weeks as a matter of years, right? So like, but for these ones we keep having days, and that's cool. So again, we are going to do the same for. So first, try to convert this guy to. Is this saying there was a simple interest? So it didn't mention any interest, so like we assume it's simple interest. Okay. So time 62 days. When we follow this format, we have 360 days equals 1 year. Then 62 days equals x. So 360 x equals to 62. So divided by 360 divided by 360. So x in this case is going to give us 0.17. This is 0.17 years. So it's not even equal to 0.5. Of course, 0.5 would have meant 180 days. Okay, so since x is that, and then what we're looking for is r. So what do we do? What do we do? So it's not that it's difficult. So we already know that your interest rates, your what's the interest? The interest here, we also use this formula, PRT over 100. We need to get the interest. Okay, so the interest is basically A minus P. Remember that A equals P plus I. Right, so interest from here is the 100,000 that was earned by the end of the investment. right, minus 96,999. So the interest is I think 3,001. So now we have what we should use. Interest is 3,001, and then we have P, we have R, we have P, we have T. So we can look for R using the same interest formula. So progressing from that guy, we have I equals PRT over 100. So I is 3,001, 3,001 because P is what's P? 96, 96, 999 multiplied by R multiplied by T is 0.17, 0.17. All right. So when we do the oath in 3001 equals to 96, where is it? One six 16489.835, 16489, 16489.8383R. So when you divide through by 16489.83, um so let's just say R equals 3001 divided by 16489.83, and then R will give us 0.182, 0.182. So you then multiply this answer by 100, right? And that will give us 18.2%. So you can see that I didn't put 100 here. I didn't do like divided by 100. Like just multiply the final answer by 100 to express in terms of percentage. So you might be asked to look for anything. So we've been asked to look for R, and then the first question we were looking for the interest. So we look for I, we look for R. Sometimes you might be asked to look for the P itself, but in that case, you'd have been given the matured value of the investment or the loan. I mean, you'd have been given your A, right? And then sometimes you might be asked to look for T. So the question can just come, in any way. Like it's more about your ability to interpret the questions, right, and then do the needful. If you cannot interpret the question from the beginning, then there's going to be a problem. Now we want to begin to put things into perspective as to what differentiates the simple interest from the compound interest, right? And then we've done two examples on the simple interest, and as we mentioned earlier, that it is the interest and on a particular amount of principal or capital that was not compounded. Okay, it was not compounded, and so I promised that we're going to like talk about what compounding means. Now, there's an example on the board that kind of helps us to understand, um, how simple interest works, right, and begins to introduce us to the concept of compound interest. Now, the thing is that for simple interest, we are looking at investing a particular amount of money, right, whereby, okay, let me talk about the compounding part. What compounding means is that, for example, if you were to invest the money for 2 years, right, when the interest rate is per annum per 1 year, so it means that by the end, when you invest a particular amount, by the end of that year, right, you're supposed to collect your interest rates. There's meant to be an interest on your principal by the end of first year, right? But because most investments don't work that way, it's not as if you're going to collect the money, right? Once you've invested an amount of money for more than a year, right, what you're going to be doing is collect the money upon maturity, which is which is after 2 years, right? After 2 years. So at the end of the day, you're going to be having something like the first year, right, the interest earned in the first year added to your principal, right, then the two of them now becomes the principal for the second year, right, after which you then begin to earn interest rate on that as well. But in the case of simple interest, there is nothing like that. So what I just spoke about is what we call the compounding, when in subsequent time periods, right, the initial capital plus the accrued interest then begins to earn another interest. So the initial capital plus the accrued interest. Accrued simply means the interest over time. So like in year two, now the principal or the capital for year 2 is going to become the principal for year 1 plus the interest earned after year 1. So that's the two of them will now become the principal for year 2, right? And then they are going to earn their own interest. And in year 3, they are going to be having the principal plus interest from year what do you call it now, from year 2, now serving as the new principal in year 3. So if you look at these things, you realize that over the time period of the investment, the principal is changing by the amount of interest that has been earned over time, right? But like for simple interest, there's nothing like that. So it's more or less like you are eating your interest, like you're enjoying your interest and allowing your capital to be constant. So for simple interest, your principal or your initial capital is constant and continues to earn a definite amount of interest, like a specific amount of interest, provided that the interest rate does not change. So now let's use this example to demonstrate what I kind of mean. So you have an investor puts 200,000 naira into a deposit account, right? And let me quickly say something. The second example that we did, it's we use simple interest formula, not because I think I mentioned something there, like, but I need to correct myself. So not because we were not told the interest that was used, but we used it because it was not up to a year. Like, it's simple interest because it's not up to a year. It has not begun to accrue, right? So that is why well, you remember that question, right? The question 2. So like the interest has not started accruing, over time. So we asked that, like, just use simple interest to solve our answer there. Okay, but like from what we're going to see from other questions, you're going to like understand better. So we have an investor puts 200k in a deposit account. So the principal here, solution, the principal is 200k, 200,000, right? And then it earns an interest of 8.5%. So rate of return is 8.5%, which is same as 0.085. And the return per annum are sent to a different bank account. So this is to tell you that the return is not allowed to be a part of the initial capital in the new year or in the subsequent year. Okay, it's sent to a different bank account. Calculate the interest earned in the 5th year. Now, when you invest 200,000 naira, so you've invested it for 5 years. Now, by the end of year 1, right, it earns a return. That return is sent to another bank account. So which means that, okay, you are going to calculate the return, you've sent that return to another bank account. So for year 2, it is still the same capital that was invested in year 1, which is 200k, that will generate another 8.5% interest. That interest is also sent to a different account. So you are not allowing that money to compound or whatever, right? I know the spelling, I think that's the most important thing here, right? Of compound or compound. So you're not allowing it to compound. Do you understand? So like that's the point. So the fact that you are not allowing interest to be added to the initial capital to then earn another interest simply means you are not allowing the compounding to happen, right? So here it now says, A, calculate the interest earned in the 5th year and calculate the interest earned by the 5th year. So we are playing with prepositions now. And then C says calculate the total amount of investments. The total worth, this should be like calculate the total worth of the investments upon maturity. Calculate the total worth of the investment, yeah, upon maturity. So for A, what we are going to do is, for the fact that you're separating the money to a different account, so it simply means that the interest earned in all years are the same thing, right? So the interest here in year 1 is same as interest in year 2, year 3, year 4. So once we calculate the interest for year 1, we know the interest for like the remaining years. All right. So in that case, what we're going to do is the simple interest rate, because we didn't allow this guy to compound. So I'll pay out to you 100, and then so interest rate is just going to be 200,000 multiplied by 0.085, which is this one, then multiplied by something, okay, time. So just the first year multiplied by the first year, and then the interest is going to be 8.5. I think it's 17,000 or thereabouts. I think this is going to give us 17,000. 85 times 2 is 17, right? Then add it with 17,000. So you are not going to write that since the interest is sent to a different account, is sent to a different account. That is no compounding. No compounding is allowed. No compounding. Right, comma. Hence, the interest is constant all through the year. Yes, all through the 5 years. The interest is not interest rate, please. The interest is constant, but anyway, the interest rate was constant all through the years. All through the years. Okay, so with that, we know that year five interest rate, year five simple interest is also going to be 17,000. So that solves the problem, right? Because you're separating it to a different account. Now, B now says the interest and by the fifth year, so it just the constant interest. So that's going to be 17,000 multiplied by 5 years, and that will be 85,000 naira. Okay, so just add up everything. Now, what is the worth of the investment? A equals P plus I over the 5 years. So, and then A from here, A equals 200,000 plus 85,000, and that will give us 285,000. So, with this, I believe that you already understand the way simple and compound interest work. Okay, so if you allow it to compound, then the formula you're going to be using is going to be that of compound interest. So, and that's what we'll be talking about in the next video. There is no assignment. There is no assignment. So we're going to be having all of our assignments in the second class. Thank you for attending this class. See you when I see you.